I think I will do the 32-ounce mug of Canadian.
Wow, celebratory.
Very something. Well, the Leafs are back, yeah?
It is a special
And they
day,
won
isn't
the last game.
They did. 2-1.
Holy shit.
Go away.
Is that what we're doing?
Will they
here?
actually make the playoffs this year?
Shut up, Kawai. Don't jinx it.
Well, I guess I'd like to welcome you all here.
You started recording. You recorded me telling Kawhi to shut up.
No,
Yes.
I'll cut it.
To
Don't
show
worry.
the evilness
First
that
of all,
is
this
Graham.
isn't actually officially a podcast. This is just here for the people who missed it and anyone on SoundCloud. On top of that,
the internet.
so just ignore it, and I'll try not to act like a host if I can. I'll just try to be like one of you guys, just one of you folk.
What are you plebes? What are you regular idiots?
Of course, we begin, of course, with introductions so everyone knows what's going on, who's where. Hi, Shaggy here, what's up? And we talk about what we did and what we want to do. So as I told you guys last week, this guy doesn't know, but I did some writing for webcomics in the past. Worked on this highly successful show. You may have heard of it. It's called Show About Game Show. It's on the Escape.
yeah.
It was wonderful. Everyone.
Graham doesn't know this stuff about you?
No,
I'm just refreshing him.
Yeah.
And currently what I'm working on is a whole buttload of anthologies, basically. I'm not going to list them all out right now because they're it's better to talk about them when they're ready to go. 3 anthologies, and what I'm hoping to work on too, of course, is Giant Robot script. We'll talk about that later.
Robots.
Who else do we have here?
I'm Graham. I also am a writer. I have very little to my name aside from, coincidentally, a Showboat Game Show sketch.
Highly acclaimed.
Highly acclaimed, yeah.
Well spoken of.
And I'm working on a couple of things that definitely a comic for an anthology, and then another thing that I am being sworn to secrecy about.
Okay.
Graham will now go to silence because the Leafs have a laser show.
No,
Yeah.
I'm still here. I can do both. I can multitask. Actually, writing in my pad is going to be difficult because I had triple
Are you
task.
taking notes?
I was thinking of it.
That's cute. Just to point out, Graham was writing on a little, 6-inch, 6-inch tablet? Was it?
A
Little
Nexus
Nexus.
7.
He's got a little keyboard.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
I don't know why your voice is so high.
Who else do we have here?
Squai, yeah, I'm writing nothing. Yay! I plan to be writing something. Not sure what though. But yes, I am here to hopefully
you're
have
here.
you social pressure me to write stuff.
Yeah, we said we wanted you to give us something to deadline you with.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone once said that the person who waits for the perfect opportunity to write will never write.
I
Exactly.
believe Winston Churchill once said.
Hence, I have written nothing. Winston Churchill.
He wrote a bunch of things, I heard.
Yes. That's about it. Carol?
Yeah, hi, I'm Karo.
Yo.
I
Carol!
haven't
Oh, we got a big picture.
published anything at all. In fact, I've only written on the internet forums. So,
Thank you.
yeah. That's,
What do you-
Yay, internet! Internet is public. It's broadcast of
yeah?
some sort.
Would you
What do you
call
hope to?
that?
Oh, is this yours?
Would you call that self-publishing if you just
Yeah.
unleash it on the internet?
Yeah, I go with self-publishing.
Okay.
Cheers, I guess. Colleagues, of
This
course.
is actually really good.
That looks
cider.
really nice. Is that alcoholic or is that just
No,
hot?
it's just cider. It's
Oh man, you guys are living it. One of these
Wait,
days.
what'd you get?
I got latte, or no, hazelnut and French vanilla coffee.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right, so today's topic, which we want to drag you all into, assuming these Leafs aren't so distracting.
I'm here. I'm just showing a video about great Leafs in the past. I already know all that.
Of course, today's topic is villains, writing for villains, writing antagonists, writing bad guys, more or less. As I wish to make tradition, I like to read a few quotes I sourced from asking people on Twitter. We got from Chris Cater saying, "To be forgotten or to live in infamy." All right. We got Brad Dorkin saying, "No actor plays the villain believing their character is bad or evil."
Oh, you only asked this 40 minutes ago?
40 minutes ago. You're here. Shut up.
Sorry.
And of course, we got Matt Jones
You can
saying,
offer your quote now. Shit.
Matt Jones saying no one sees themselves as evil. But one other I'd like to read is comes from a well-respected director, of course, Hayao Miyazaki, of all those movies he does. And he says the concept of portraying evil and then destroying it. I know this is considered mainstream, but I think it is rotten. This idea that whenever something evil happens, someone particular can be blamed and punished for it, and life and in politics is hopeless. I think there's a lot to take from that.
Yes.
Definitely, if you watch many of Miyazaki's directed films, there's usually no direct villain, no direct bad guy. There's plenty of antagonists, plenty of people getting in plenty of people's way. We'd like to delve into this a bit more.
Talking like a host.
Am I?
A little, yeah.
A little. Okay,
It's
so
just-
I'm
it's
going to
just
ignore
his natural,
this. My natural cadence is the host and to set you guys up for questions and answers.
You have quite the radio voice, man.
Oh, thank you very much. You have quite the cinnamon stick in your mouth.
Yeah, that was not a euphemism. That is actually a cinnamon stick. It's really good.
So I guess let's begin on this journey into bad. It's good to be bad, all that kind of stuff. When we're growing up,
fun.
it's fun to be bad. I find when we're growing up, each incarnation of stuff we watch, villains change. Like when it's kids show, usually like a hug and a song, and the bad guy sees the way, and they're all good. And later, more not superhero-esque or GI Joe animations, punching is how we deal with bad guys. Then we get to James Bond and
They never
Disney
really
films,
get rid of
and
the bad
killing
guy,
is
though.
how we deal with bad
Wait,
guys.
James Bond and Disney films?
Yeah, they seem
What
both-
childhood did you have?
I watched the Roger Moore. He's a little more innocent than Sean Connery, to be fair. But the idea is kind of like as we progress, villains tend to take less time and patience with them. We just want to kind of kill them and get it over with. How do you feel about this? Does this make you sad, Graham?
No, I don't know. I sort of all villains these days are so multi-layered and you know.
You have urges for like the old simple bad guys that you can just
Kinda like a
Your nostalgia
Shredder.
for a good old.
Yes,
Or
that-
Megatron.
I was going to ask you actually, just coming here. I was like, what did Shredder want?
I don't know. Kill those turtles. I think he wanted to. Like, Krang wanted to come through from his dimension into our dimension,
Okay.
and, like take over and stuff.
And
I
The
guess
turtles were
Shredder-
blocking the hole, and he had
Yeah.
to kill them to like.
cock blocking Krang. Shredder wasn't gonna stand for it.
I can see that being troublesome for the Foot Clan and all. They had to,
You know,
Wow.
Cock block the brain.
So, well, good memories from childhood. Like I had no idea what was. I knew there was the whole Dino and Turtle suit.
To be fair, I have been collecting the comics.
Yeah, I've been reading up on the Archie comics,
Oh,
the official
love that stuff.
Archie comic release of Ninja Turtles.
Is there an official continuity to Archie comics?
Well, a little off topic. It depends what you're reading. There's certain things. That
I love
stay
the fact
same.
that you liked it. Yeah, you actually know this.
You baited him, and he just bit and sunk it. There you go.
We know to go on, go on.
So
I really wanna
these
know
days,
this.
they definitely bring the continuity into the fore more.
Well, there's the Jalopy arc first. We have to talk about.
Well, yeah.
Well, the new look.
certain things, yeah. He had like a really banged up beater, which at some point it was like, why is this teenager driving around this vintage classic car that only one of exists in the
Yeah.
world? So he upgraded to a more modern car so kids could relate to him. But now they did that.
That's the Archie Secret Wars, right?
No, they did sort of actually. They did this event where it was like, what if Archie married Betty? No, wait, what if Archie married Veronica? And now they've created these two like divergent timelines.
So we're in
Oh my
the
God,
Quantum
seriously?
Archie era.
Seriously.
Yeah.
We've entered Quantum
Wait,
Archie.
wait,
Yeah.
no. Do you actually read the Archie comics? Like, how do you know this?
Should we turn the mic off?
No, I'm not mocking. I'm just
No,
curious.
I
I'm
don't.
honest. How do you notice it?
I read a lot of stuff on the internet.
When you're in lineups at the grocery store, there's those impulse buys, but
Yeah.
and they're just like $5. Come
What,
on,
Double Digest?
That jug had Double Digest.
It'll last me a whole month.
Okay. Yeah, totally off topic now.
It's
Let's
a
go
lot
ahead.
to digest.
Oh,
How villainous of you.
Yeah.
Speaking of villains,
good segue.
saved it. Well, I guess like one of my questions is like have villains evolved to a point where we're almost like a little, we want to know too much about them, and that makes us too sympathetic, and so we don't want to just kill them so easily? Or can you still be angry at a villain who you understand?
You can be angry at a villain you understand. Totally. You can sympathize and still, disagree with the methods they decide to use.
Have a mature conversation
Yes.
about it. Be like, look, I understand you want the ring and to take over Middle Earth, but you gotta settle down a little with that
Well,
action.
it's an
Play
interesting
nice
question.
with the
Like,
little
since
people.
since Graham is nostalgic for the simple villains, could you even get away with a simple villain?
Is it ironic now to do it? Like kind of like, in a,
if you had a simple villain in a movie, people would just automatically criticize you about that?
for like I want to rule the world.
Possibly. I saw Gangster Squad the other day, and Sean Penn is a fairly. Oh my God, Chris Hadfield is cheering on the Leafs from the space station. Oh yes.
That was one of many takes. He probably says it to every team.
Yeah.
But he's Canadian.
Welcome back, Puck Katir, or whatever he's gonna say.
Anyway. Pucktronaut.
Oh God.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so Sean Penn in that movie plays a real life gangster named Mickey Cohen, although he plays him so over the top and his makeup is so thick that he looks like you know, he fell out of a trauma movie.
Was he like a character from the Dick Tracy movie or something
He looks
like that?
kind of like that, yeah. And he's so over the top in his utter villainy that he is basically a Dick Tracy villain. But it makes the movie kind of it's a fun movie, you know. A lot of people are giving it. Can I swear on your recording?
But
yeah.
you can.
All right.
Who
That's
are we
poo and swear.
Like, who are we censoring this for? Is this like...
I don't know. I don't know. So he, I don't know. They. Oh my God, it's Felix Potvin. Sorry.
Oh, God.
So they don't take. Oh, Darcy Tucker.
So for those who haven't picked up, Graham is half or fully absorbed in the Leafs game, and now is catatonic.
He had a point, and he
Darcy
lost
Tucker.
it.
He's my favorite.
I bet he is. Can you focus on Starzy Tucker and talk at the same time, though, is the question.
Apparently not.
All right, so he's just like a real basic villain. He just wants money and to take over, and he's not going to let anyone stand in his way. And
Chris
it's just
wants
a
to take
fun
over.
movie. A lot of the critics and stuff are giving it shit because it's such a simple plot, but it's just a real solid B movie. And I enjoyed the shit out of it.
I saw the movie too.
Yeah?
Did Ryan Gosling's voice annoy you in that?
A lot. Yeah.
I know.
Wait, which one did you say was a bear with dynamite in his mouth?
Nick Nolte.
Okay, so what did Gosling sound like?
He sounded lovely.
Yeah. He had like this fake, kind of soft, kind of like.
Yeah, reedy, irritating.
Oh, so just like
Well, I
Drive,
don't
where he's
understand-
like, I want to get in my car.
No, his voice in Drive sounded like that, but his voice in Drive was
heard you had
not
trouble
anywhere
next
as
door.
annoying. I
I
do
got
not
a
understand why
hammer.
he used that voice.
And this is like,
I like what was gained by that voice?
I don't know.
don't know.
I thought he was good other than
He was
the
good.
voice.
Yeah, the
But
voice
Nick
was
Nolte
good.
was amazing. I thought of a bunch of other euphemisms for his voice.
All right.
It sounded like someone strangling a boulder.
Okay.
It sounded like someone giving the Thing a blowjob.
Oh.
Like Marvel's the
Yeah,
thing.
Marvel's the Thing.
Thank you.
Not.
Wait, the sound he'd be making or the thing would be making?
I don't know.
Or that
I think
collectively.
you or he would be because it's like
Oh
all these
God.
rocks.
Okay,
in
we
his
don't
mouth.
need to like. Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Sounds
So
like
you-
cigars, last gasps of breath before it's put out.
Yeah. Wow, that's actually really poetic of you.
Thank you.
Right after what you just said. You kind of picked yourself up there.
Thing gargling too.
Right.
It sounds like it is a thing. Like, it's common if I type that on Google.
Thing gargling.
I'll see some fan art
Oh,
from Jack
God.
Kirby's fine work.
Yeah.
Oh, those Yankee Street boys on my nuts again.
Okay, so you say you're nostalgic for
little bit.
a simpler, an innocent time when bad guys were bad, in an
Yeah.
interesting way to put it.
And dames were in distress. Oh, the good old days.
Whose voice was that? It was like McGruff?
I guess so. Yeah, it's the McGruff.
Okay, but how about in your own work? Would you then, like, with your knowledge, like you read a lot of Marvel, dare I say, a lot of comics where they've added a lot of layers to villains. Would you prefer to write the simple villain, or do you want?
I don't know. I'd like to try and put a both. Honestly, in most of the stuff I've written so far, I can only think of one villain, and even he is kind of gray. So he's not a proper villain, I don't think. Like, he's got... He is and he isn't, but that's the problem. Like, I don't have anything where I can straight up say, oh, he's a bad guy. Oh, you're not going to like him. Oh,
So
keep
who's
the
the
kids away
closest?
from this. I can't really discuss it because, again, a lot of my stuff is in the works,
Yeah, yeah.
but he's
Who are you afraid of
manipulative.
stealing your ideas here?
It's not that I'm afraid of people stealing ideas. It's just like I got
It's
other
still in
people involved who
development
don't want, who
Okay.
would want maybe.
So did you
closer
make
to
a
the
conscious
best.
choice of making them kind of more complex characters? These villains of yours?
Yeah, and that one, for sure, that was part of it because he's also a main character, and they're the two. It's a two-character story, and they're in it the whole time. It's just the two of them. So it's.
Can you really be the villain then if they're both the main characters? Are they not just two leads who are
Wait,
antagonists to each
aren't
other?
villains main characters?
Villains can be main
Maybe.
characters.
Well, in the
Both
sense,
the
like,
main
is he main as
characters.
in, like, it's both focused on both their strides? Because I always find, like,
Yeah.
a villain character tends to get a little less screen time and he's usually just planning things and yelling at Russians and stuff, and he's like,
this isn't really a villain. It's like these two characters and how they play off each other, and one guy goes.
He's an
too
antagonist.
Far, kind of.
He's not
an antagonist.
He's not a villain. He's an antagonist.
He's only an antagonist because of
this is killing you to explain.
a little because of how it ends.
Yeah, you don't have to say how. Don't worry. We'll talk after. We'll find all the juicy secrets you got.
Yeah. So.
How about yourself? Like, would you prefer to write? Actually, no. Let's throw this to Karo. Actually,
Okay.
when you're in your writing, do you prefer the good old days? I'll get back to you because you guys talk so much. You drunks.
I'm sorry.
Your apple
I'm
cider.
worried.
Would you prefer the good old days of let's kick Shredder's ass, guys? I don't know if he says it like that.
I think they do.
Or do you want like I'm doing this because I had a rotten childhood? And you're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
I think it'd be
Please take over the world.
Yeah, I think it'd be really easy if, we just had the straight cut evil is evil and you can't get any more closer to evil than that guy. And then, you got rid of him and yay, conflict's done. But at the same time,
Life's
it's
not
like,
that clean.
you got people asking, wait, why did he do that? There's always motive,
Well, that's the thing I started realizing as I was growing up. I just, in watching an animated film, I just can't get away with someone being bad because they're bad anymore. Like, I need a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever there's just an easy, he's the bad guy, let's get him, I'm like, come on, just tell me something. What's up with you, buddy? Let's jam.
Well, I mean, they do get into that a bit in Gangster Squad, where it's like
he had a rough childhood. He was abandoned. He worked his way up like the mob by violence and
Yeah, that's how he made his name.
Yeah.
He was he also was a boxer, so he's probably riddled with head injuries.
Yes.
So that was the straight course was, you know what? I'm going to do awful things.
I need to fight.
The true villain of that movie, brain damage.
Yeah, it's tragic.
It's
It feels like you kind of hit on, was it? There's those two conditions where it's either you're born innocent and you learn, or you're born already with your personality. Do you think like villains...
Either you die the hero, or you live long enough to...
see yourself become the villain?
That's
well, I didn't mean that. This is...
Yeah, damn you.
This isn't...
Let my brain work.
Oh god, what's the word? It's not id and...
Ego.
It's not that. It's that other thing. Like, it's either... You're born with your personality, or you gain your personality.
Right.
Would you say like most villains in writing?
Nature versus
nature. Oh, there you go.
nurture.
It's so much easier than the words I was looking for.
Cool.
With nature and nurture, do you think like most of these villains, if you didn't have their backstory, like were they already bad to begin with, or did they all have like a tragic tale to tell, or are they all just too ambitious and can't see what they're stomping on?
Karo, would you like to field this one?
Do you want to pick a villain to like address so it's easy?
Okay, sure.
'Cause there's too many villains.
The one villain that comes to mind is Scar. When I was younger, I was just like, oh yeah, that's the bad guy. But then rewatching, Lion King, I'm like,
he was brushed aside.
He was brushed aside. He was a younger brother. His older brother was all successful and got the kingdom. And what did he get? This little dingy, thorn-covered land.
Technically, I don't think he actually had that because he wasn't supposed to be there.
Oh, okay.
He had this little shadow under a rock because he lived under Pride Rock.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, remember when he was hanging out sleeping under a rock?
That was Pride
Like,
Rock?
Yeah, that was Pride Rock. They hang out there. They all live there.
I thought he was in a different area.
No, he's like on the lower level of Pride Rock.
Goodness.
It's pretty rough.
Oh, that's even worse now. That's so sad.
But you assume like if they had like if Lion King 0.1 came out and they're just like how Scar got this way, like first of all there'd be a lot of fan drawings of like Scar sexy and stuff, but let's put that aside. But there'd be like young Scar, and you see how he came the way to be, and it's probably not just him being like I feel like being an asshole today. What do you say, guys?
Well, I guess when it's a nature versus nurture thing with I can't believe we're discussing Scar, but it's with Scar he presumably, I mean, we need to go back to the year one Lion King, but
year one, yes.
If he had just as good an opportunity to be a team player and like join up and help out, but he was a dick, like through and through. I mean, maybe he had reasons for being a dick.
Well, he was basically
I don't
Loki.
think so.
Like he couldn't accept that he wasn't going to get the throne, and so he lost his shit and killed some ice giants.
Right. I don't.
Or something like
that. Is that in year one Lion King?
But the question is, what about his older brother, Mufasa?
Yeah, Mufasa just handed everything.
But what if
depends.
Mufasa was, his villain?
An asshole?
what if
Well,
he
Mufasa's
made-
his antagonist.
Yeah, what if he
Like, we
made
wouldn't even-
Scar like the villain that we see now?
Yeah,
So
Mufasa
who's the
could
real
just be
villain?
like a stuck-up, self-righteous.
Well, yeah, we didn't see them grow up together, and he's like,
I
"Oh, hey,
didn't know that.
I'm gonna mess
In the
with
movie,
Scar
doesn't
today."
seem like you
You
have to
know,
go
like
by
we
what's
didn't.
there.
But to be honest, all you see is Mufasa interacting with his son.
Yeah.
And that's really different than Mufasa interacting with people in
Maybe
general.
Scar was
you know?
jealous because he didn't have a son, and he was like, "I hate
Wait.
fathers."
Are you saying Scar
Get
was
one
like
in the
sterile or something? Is that
Maybe
it?
that may have been an issue.
If you really want to get down to it, Nala and Simba are probably related because Mufasa's the
Oh, yeah,
only male.
true.
Yeah, he's the only male kicking around. So it's
Can we leave this Lion King
seedy
world?
No, let's dig
underbelly
deeper,
of Pride
okay?
Rock.
There's a lot of things
Incest
going
on
on.
Pride Rock.
Oh man.
Breaking here first.
But you bring up an interesting point talking about like Lion King that way because there's another movie I want to bring up. Any of you see Kung Fu Panda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
this is shut up.
I'm
okay,
a 20-year-old man.
Did anyone line up first day
Collects
and
Mutant
dress
Ninja
up?
Turtle comics and Archie
Nostalgia.
comics.
Listen here, Archie
Perfectly good reason for
fanboy.
that.
There's something I want to bring up, which is either the writers are genius or they're really, really cruel and mean and jerks of Kung Fu Panda.
Why?
The basic plot of the movie is like let's strip away the Jack Black side of it for now.
Yeah.
The main antagonist, of course, is this like lion tiger dude who's all chained up, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's gonna break free someday." So we gotta like put him in a pit guarded by rhinos, but he breaks out and he kung fu his way out, which is awesome. The backstory of this character, though, is he was originally raised by the master, who's now like training the panda because he has to. And he was raised from a child to be like, "You're the one. You're the best. You're gonna be kung fu." He's like, "Yeah," and he raised him like his own son. He teaches him kung fu. He's the best martial artist in the world. And he brings him to the turtle master. He's like, "Actually, no, he's not the one. Fuck off," kind of thing. Dude loses his shit, beats up everyone, wrecks the village because all his life he was told he was gonna be one thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, "No, go away, screw you." So then he's basically cast out, chained up, being like, "Well, you beat up a village, so you're under arrest." And he is the bad guy of the movie. Now, even though all this is shown, the movie itself never really, lets it be that he is still, a wounded, tragic individual. Because in the end, Jack Black, the panda, defeats him with comedy, and he does some, and he's bounces around and blows him up and dead. Like there's really no other explanation. He does a super move, and the end. He was a bad guy. Everyone cheers, and I'm watching this thinking, did the writers intend for us to take a second look and be like, "Well, wait, that was awful," or was it really just they had this backstory and they're like, "Now he's a bad guy, so none of that matters"?
I think it's the latter. I don't think they put that much thought into that.
Because the interesting thing is, DreamWorks always maintained we write for the adult in every child, but it just seemed like there was so much tragedy in this character's past, and the only resolution was funny martial arts special move with pull my finger and dead. And it just felt like such a waste of a character.
Don't see it that way.
No, not really. There's a certain super technique with the pinky that he's gonna do, and it's like, "Oh no, you're gonna do it." He's like, "Yeah, I am. I'm Jack Black," and it's like a big explosion, and then he's just gone, not there. So let's say presumed dead.
But that's the stupidest ending I've ever heard.
I'm sorry,
It's not your fault.
but my point
Unless
is,
you wrote
I
it.
didn't write it. But my point is I felt so bad for that character, and I
Yeah.
didn't know if they intentionally wrote it that way or if they just well, we gave him a bit of a backstory, but now we got to kill him because it's a kids movie more or less. And I'm like, wow.
So you're saying that maybe kids' movies need to have that clear cut, this is the winner, this is the loser? And
I don't know.
The villains are always supposed to be the losers?
Not necessarily that, but no, what I'm saying is that's what kind of happened, is the villain is a loser. I'm like, couldn't we have a redemption ending instead?
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I was looking for.
So that they all become friends at the end.
I just feel
Not
like
friends.
I should.
But everything gets everyone. Yeah.
I just feel like I should say, because you said the writers or whoever didn't consider this. I'm telling you, the writers of something like this stay with this work for months at a time,
Yes.
probably years. So anything we can think of, they probably already have.
Oh, that and then some.
Yeah.
But it just blows my mind that that's how it went.
No, I'm not saying that I didn't think about it. I just thought that they deemed it unimportant to the overall story.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not the story they
Or
were telling.
the producers.
Well, the story they wanted to
wanted to
tell
make him more
was
of a villain.
funny Panda Jack Black is like a big, fat, funny guy, but he wants to be more, and he's told, oh, you're actually the one, and then eventually, through comedy, he becomes the one, and defeats the guy who actually spent his whole life training, which still blows my mind, and frustrates me to no end, but hey, comedy
Hey, he's the
wins.
one. What are you
And
gonna
he
do?
has heart. He has heart, remember?
Yeah.
Heart.
Yeah.
He has heart.
Like, what is it? Matei from the Captain Planet?
Who? Oh, yeah.
What's
Is that
his
his name?
name?
The guy with the monkey?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
What's his
right.
name?
I don't know. What's her name?
Isn't his name Matei or something like that? Anyway,
Yeah,
Mateo.
the guy with the worst
Mateo.
power.
Yeah. No,
It was the
had
best
to be,
power.
No,
He can talk to animals. Oh.
No, he talked to the monkey. But he had to be there, or else Captain Planet couldn't be summoned, because he was the last in line.
Well, so wait, you're saying that they could summon him with any of the others?
Well,
any
he's always the one who
combination
got kidnapped, if you recall. So they're always like, we need to summon Captain Planet, but Monkey Man ain't here.
of it. Like, damn it, Hart!
He was the last in line.
So you're saying that they would like go out and they'd be like, Earth, fire, wind, water. Damn it again!
Were they always
like
in the
that would be the only time they'd notice he was missing?
Were they always in the
Yeah.
same place together when they did the moves, though, or were they like in other parts of the world?
No, they have to be together.
together,
They have to be together.
Oh, okay.
Gotta watch those Don Cheadle, Funny or Die, Captain Planet.
Oh, I
things
did.
again.
I did watch
Oh, that
those.
was
Those are
hilarious.
great. My heart, it hurts. I remember that. Let me think. Where we go with that? So overall, I feel like in that situation they gave a backstory to their villain, but then they didn't like deal with it at all. They're just like, oh, he actually has a tragic past, so there's a sadness. But then they're like, now he's a bad guy.
I think that's
Let's fight
sort
him.
of the downside of a 2-hour movie or hour and a half movie or whatever. There's only so much that you can cover, So if in a comic book, like say X-Men, which has gone collectively probably close to 1,000 issues, Magneto has evolved into a really interesting character. Sometimes he works with the X-Men, sometimes he's just like a mindless supervillain. But his backstory is fascinating, and his motives and his need to do things is really interesting and compelling.
Well, if you want to talk like the mainstream approach, like let's go to X-Men First Class, you're more likely to side with Magneto in that movie than Professor X, because he seems very like optimistic but ignorant in his opinions. And Magneto's like, man, everyone hates us, and it's shown throughout the movie that everyone hates them.
Yeah.
And it's like you want the hope of Xavier, of course, but Magneto seems justified in everything he does.
Yeah, Xavier seems sheltered in that movie. He's like,
He seems like, I saw Les Mis recently. He seems like Marius, who's this rich kid who wants to fight with all the poor kids. Like,
That movie was
I'm one of
terrible.
you.
First Class or
Hey,
Les Mis?
hey.
Les Mis.
Anne Hathaway made me cry like 3 damn times. 3 in one song.
She was the best part.
Yeah, she held it up. Everyone else was actually.
I wouldn't say she held it up. She's in it for 10 minutes.
For those 10
Are we
minutes.
talking about Anne
It's like-
Hathaway's song?
Yes.
It's like Anne Hathaway is trying to hold up a Ringling Brothers circus by herself. It's all going to be on the ground except for one little Anne Hathaway shape.
Well, she's the tentpole of my movie experience then. She gives me a tentpole.
Oh.
Sorry, I had to go there. It was there. Graham was here. I had to. I couldn't waste this opportunity. But let's be clean about it. She did a good job.
She did. Everyone else was shit. She was good.
Wow, you have such anger about
I
this.
don't have that much anger. Just
You were just like, you didn't hit that note right. It's C minor.
no. It's like they constantly hit notes. There's no talking. It's like anything they
It's a
did.
musical.
The singing. You stole some bread. Yes, I
It's a
did. You stole some
musical.
bread.
To be
Pulling a
fair,
boat.
to be fair, he is right. There's a lot of like nothing happening, but singing it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what's going on over there? I'm over there. Guess what I'm doing? What are you doing? I don't know. La 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 la. And I'm like, all right. It was kind of like that.
Kind of.
Yeah, it was.
And then there's I don't even want to talk about it, but then there's a romance that's thrown in, and it's just like, I saw her once and she looks nice. You looked at me and I like that. Let's get together. Screw this war. Da, da, da. I'm like, all right.
And the guy, Eddie Redmayne, his singing is so like comically 1940s or whatever. It's like, they're going to storm the walls. It's just like so over the top. It's distracting. Like everyone else sings. Russell Crowe sings like he's in like a beer-drenched hall, and you know, Anne Hathaway sings for the rafters like nobody's there, and then he's like, I just walked off the stage. It's just so lame.
It's like everyone. Well, my thing is everyone's trying to put so much emotion because it's like, all right, guys, this isn't a stage musical. You don't have to be so loud. Let's make it like intimate. But then you're saying this guy comes in like, hello, I like a girl.
Yeah, and she's like,
yes, she did hit the vibrato a lot.
Nice to see you.
You know what? Okay, this actually brings me back to that experience of Les Mis. During the movie,
There was an experience?
yeah, okay. During the movie, it brings us back to the villains.
Javert?
Javert?
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah.
Okay, so Javert is cast kind of like the villain, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just because
During
he's
the
an endless
movie-
dick.
During
He
the
is.
movie, he, you know, you see parts of him where he's like, oh, he has to be this way because he's got such conviction and so
Yes.
forth. And then you sort of feel sorry for him.
Yes.
Remember the part on the
feel
bridge
sorry for him,
before
he's an
that
idiot.
tragic end?
Yes. It's a crunchy end.
Yeah, the crunchy end.
That was the loudest crunchy end I've ever heard.
There was a girl sitting beside me, you know, one chair over, who was whispering, oh, I hope he jumps, I hope he jumps. And I'm like, really? Even after you saw all that, how he was, you know, miserable and, you know, feeling misery of not catching,
Yeah.
you know, and all that, I'm like, she really saw him as the villain and didn't, you know, identify with how he could be a good guy, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I just think he refused to bend. Like he was like, you stole some bread and you ran away. Now we caught you. I think that was one of the lyrics.
No.
But it was like,
But I mean, him as a character, he's got some like traits that
I
would be
don't think so.
identifiable as a hero. Like for one, remember when he turned in what's his name, Wolverine?
Yeah, he turned in Wolverine.
Turned in Wolverine, but then he admitted to his mistakes, and he was like, "I'm sorry, I turned you in. You should turn me in instead." I was like, "Oh, that's such a, you know, good."
He has a
Trait to have.
sense of
When was
principle.
He turned him in?
Exactly.
No, I saw it like the other day.
he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were this dude, and clearly you're not this
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
and-
He's like, give me a lashing, please.
with your tongue.
And he's so convinced he's doing the right thing, being all devoted to God and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, in his world, he is the hero.
Yes.
And then because this other hero keeps evading him, he's like, I must be wrong. And then,
Well, no, because he saved his life. He spared him, and he's always helping people. And he's always like, just give me another 3 days, I swear I'll arrest myself. He's
Yeah.
like, just one more day, I'll arrest myself, I swear. I'll even do the paperwork. You know, and it's like, and
I
he's
know
like,
that's your least favorite part.
and he's just like, this is John Valjean, he's bullshitting me, he never goes back. I don't know.
But it's also,
It's like, don't stab me here.
you know,
do
that.
you see him as a villain at the end?
Well, you know, he's so conflicted, he's like, balls it, and he just jumps a bridge.
But it's
So-
like the thing is, if he were a hero, think of it from his perspective. If he was the guy you were supposed to identify with, and the guy you're like rooting for, and there's a guy who's like, "Hey, I stole some bread," and he's like, "I'm gonna arrest you," and then he runs away, and he's like, "All right, I caught you. Now you have to go to jail for 19 years." Don't you think
It
you'd be
was
like,
very good bread. It was like Cobb's or something. It was really good.
well, don't you think you'd have a harder time sympathizing with the hero if he was like a strict dick who couldn't budge on anything? It's like if like Luke and Han had managed to capture Emperor Palpatine, and he was actually a decrepit old man who was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm lost in the mall."
What's
And
a
they're
Death
like-
Star?
And then they're like, "Well, sorry, we have to cut your head off. It's sort of what we came to do." And then they cut this old senile man's head off.
Like
Don't you
slowly,
think-
it takes like
Yeah.
5
Enslaved
minutes.
the universe.
It's like,
Because he didn't use the
shouldn't you use a lightsaber? He's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna messy my lightsaber up with this ancient asshole's blood."
Oh god.
So
So
then,
he uses
Well, I was
Chewie's
like,
hand and I like sawing away.
then it becomes a question about flexibility. He was trying
Yeah.
to uphold the law, and the law is good.
Is the law right though in
Right?
that case?
So,
Not that the story really explained it, but was the law and the revolution?
I think in real life we all know that the law is fallible. I mean, even comic books. They're not. Most comic books are about superheroes who are vigilantes,
Yeah,
who are
that's
going
true.
outside of the law for justice. Because sometimes the law is. Look, I don't agree with
it leads to
vigilantism
that line
in real
where
life.
Peter Parker goes, "Well, sometimes Spider-Man does what the police can't." And he's like, "Who can't do what, son?" And he's like, "Oh no!" Remember from
It's like
Spider-Man?
Doctor Who episode with Andrew Garfield in it recently.
Was there?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's really weird.
I want to see that.
It was a good one.
do you have more to say about the law of infallible? Or?
Well, I'm just saying that, it's a fine line. Like the line between, say, Batman and Magneto, I guess. I'm sorry, this is on the top of my head. It's not that big. There's not a big gap between them. They both believe in certain kinds of justice and certain kinds of ideas of what's right.
Yeah.
Well, one of them will go to certain lengths that the other won't. They go in different directions. But Batman is very close to being a bad guy. I can understand why the police want to stop him. Because he beats the shit out of people who are mentally insane. That's why they're always going to an insane asylum.
Upon. I hear.
It's like these are people with mental problems. Punching them in the face probably isn't gonna help them any. Yeah.
It sure makes for exciting read.
It does, though, and I appreciate that. But I don't think it's necessarily a quality I want people in real life to emulate.
Yeah. It's interesting, I guess, to go back to Miyazaki. One of the films I appreciate a lot, Princess Mononoke, especially because there truly is no clear villain. And I feel everyone is everyone's antagonist to a degree, where everyone is getting in everyone's way. And if you watch the film, you have Lady Obashi in her city, which is like she separated herself from the capital, the military or whatever, the shogun, and made her own village with her own weaponry, and everyone wants her to surrender. And she's like, "Frig you, I made this."
Is this Minnie Driver?
I think so, yeah. And what she's doing is both pissing off the Shogun and the animals because she's killing nature. The wolves and shit, are just hate all humans, so they're trying to kill them all. Ashitaka is like a farm boy caught in the middle of it, and he can align with any side. And in the end, you can pick who's bad or not, but in the end, everyone's just trying to get by with what they feel is right, but to their own wrong extremes, I guess. And I feel it's a very rare thing.
Pig beast, isn't that a bad guy?
No, he got corrupted with evil and bullets and stuff.
Right, but if there's evil, then he's...
There's people doing dickish things, like the monk guy who's actually working for the Shogun. He's the one who wants to poison, I guess the beasts and stuff, and for the sake of the humans or whatever. Everyone always has a justification, and there's something I really appreciate about that film. And I wonder, is there many other examples of that where it's like you can see what everyone's doing and then be so conflicted with who do you side with aside from the one who gets the most screen time?
I mean, isn't Vantage? Well, there are a couple of movies. Vantage Point.
Wait, rewind that. Oh my god.
That isn't that where it's like from different people's perspectives?
Yeah.
But is the perspective warped based on how they saw it, or is it like the literal reenactment of each sequence?
What was that? There's another movie.
Rashomon?
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I remember people always bring it up.
Literally, Vantage Point is a bad version of Rashomon.
Okay. Rashomon? It sounds like a Pokemon.
The classic cinematic.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
It's because it has Mon at the end. Mon means monster, I think. Pokemon,
It's
Princess
a
Mon,
place.
Mononoke. Okay. I'm gonna stop talking. You explain something now.
Well, okay, a crime happens in Rashomon, and then every single person in, the court tells their version of what happened.
So it's a narrative.
And you never
visual.
know who's actually telling the truth, or if any of them are telling the truth. And that's the point, is the truth is, maybe there is no absolute truth.
Because now it's shown from recollections versus the God
It's a
camera.
recollection of every single person involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to watch this now.
It's a very good movie.
Have you ever seen 12 Angry Men?
Yes, I did. That was interesting. Because there's one guy, and I swear one of the actors was the guy who played Piglet in Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Piglet!
He's
I have
also
no
in the
other
Star Trek
points.
episode.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
That's cool. What's he do?
He's... I don't remember, but he gets possessed by Jack the Ripper at one point.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
I think it's Wolf in the Fold, I think is the name of the episode.
Well, I guess the point of 12 Angry Men is you never hear whether they were right or not. It's just about one guy going, I don't think he did it. And they're like, oh my god, I got work in the morning.
It's like he's doing the work of the investigators.
Yeah, basically. It's Phoenix Wright.
Terrible jobs that these investigators did. This random man who went to a crime scene and stole a knife.
But sadly, that happens a lot.
Or the jury does.
Oh, no. I mean, police do shitty jobs sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. That's why you need vigilante justice.
I thought you were against vigilante
Back-breaking, face-punching,
Yeah.
not helping people who need help, basically, at all.
I'll drink to that. But yeah,
So is it safe to say that the hero and the villain are determined based on who's telling the story?
Well, technically, because
Punisher, prime example.
All right.
Has his own comic. In his own comic,
He does?
He's had many.
What's
of
it
them.
called?
Punisher.
All right. What's
Maybe
he doing
Special
it?
Land. Punish. But he's basically the good guy of that comic, even if he's an anti-hero. He's the guy you identify with, the guy you're rooting for. But he initially was out to get Spider-Man. Like his first appearance, he's basically a villain.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these.
It's like Wolverine. He was out to get the Hulk.
Yeah, but he was. I mean, the Hulk is oftentimes the villain of his own story.
Oh, okay.
In a way. But anyway, even when the Wolverine's never been a villain.
No?
In the no, when
When
he first
he's
appeared,
cutting people up a little, like they need help too. He's just cutting them up.
he usually does it with his words.
All those robots, doors, and barrels in the animated series, they needed help. He just keeps cutting them.
They got the help they needed. But yeah, I mean, the Punisher is and Venom too. Another example of a guy who's introduced as a villain and then.
I don't think I've ever seen him as a hero. Now you mention it.
He had his own comic book too.
I think he's just a dick the whole time. He's like tripping people and stuff. Like, we found that humorous.
No.
I mean, Marvel comics aren't like Archie comics. All jokes and jollies.
That Harvey comics isn't Spooky the Ghost. Venom, he's an anti-hero too.
Yeah.
Eddie Brock only really hated Peter Parker. He wasn't.
And that makes him an antagonist to us because we root for Peter.
Yeah.
So what happens with the Punisher? I haven't read or heard about the series.
So the Punisher was a police officer, and in the
His
most
family
common,
gets killed.
it's either, depending on what you read, it's either corrupt cops who kill his family at this picnic, or it was the mob. And so he is like, oh, and they all get away, and he's like, oh, justice wasn't served, I will be justice, and he goes out and he decides to kill anyone who does wrong, you know?
He's like Judge Dredd or something, just
Kinda,
like
yeah.
Judge, Judy, and Executioner.
Yes. Yeah. He goes out with his Tommy gun and blows people away.
There you go.
And generally, it's like, you know, mobsters and people we can all agree are not beneficial to society, but still probably shouldn't be killed.
Probably not.
But
nice.
you know, he was an early '90s gritty, dark character.
Yeah.
He had 4 comic books a month coming at one point. It was
wow.
like Punisher, Punisher War Journal, Punisher War Zone, and Punisher Romance Comics or something. I don't remember.
Punish me. Was it like that? So you had to read it like that.
50 Shades of Punisher.
Speaking of shades, Darth Vader has a pretty dark helmet. There's one thing I want to bring
mixing
up.
your villains.
I don't know. No, shades.
helmet?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay. Shut up. There's one point I found really interesting, like, because a lot of people look at Star Wars, the tale of the hero's journey and all that stuff, as heroes and villains, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. And thinking about it for this talk, I realized Luke is not really on Vader's radar at all in the whole first movie.
Nope.
Yeah, he's still the antagonist, and the only interaction they have is actually in, the trench run where Vader, which interesting to his character, where most villains would be like, "Go get them!" Rah! He friggin' buckles up and goes himself into the danger zone.
It's on the highway.
He goes in there,
Danger zone.
and then he goes after Luke, and it's kind of like that was their only interaction in the whole movie, outside of him going "no" and shooting at a door.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think if there's many other examples of that, like an antagonist so separated from the hero. When often it's like, he's doing what? Send more men to kill him.
Yeah. Never really thought of that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. Like later on, he's the most important thing because he's like, you came from me, But in the early thing, he had nothing to do with Luke. And even when he's like,
didn't
this
really
guy has
know-
the Force.
he didn't really
he's gonna shoot him anyway. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, how many more Jedi's are around? And I found that really interesting that he's just like, oh, he's got the Force. Fuck him. And like Han is his antagonist because Han shoots him.
Yeah.
Like, sure, Luke's fucking his shit up, but Han comes in and shoots his wings.
Because, Darth Vader doesn't even know Luke
No,
through the whole
he
first
knows
movie.
nothing about
Yeah,
him. He's like,
he's
what? There's a
aware of
farm boy on the Death
Yeah.
Star? Let's get him. Like, he is not at all. Like, they don't
here.
They, like, if you count the trilogy as all the interactions, yes, in Empire they have their meeting.
Yeah.
But in the movie itself, they don't meet in the middle, get separated, then have a final fight. Like, he doesn't even talk to him.
No.
And I find that really interesting.
Yeah. With the last Starfighter.
Is that the case? Didn't his hologram show up and he's like, "Hi everyone, and you, human, you're good at video games, are you? Yes? I'll see you die by your joystickery." Something like that happened. Starfighter was really good, actually, yeah. His co-pilot was a really cool guy.
He was a cool guy.
He's like, "I got a wife," and I'm like, "I feel for him."
What do you think?
Yeah, can you think of any case where there's a villain who just doesn't meet the hero? He almost like, it's to the extent that he almost ran him over with a truck by mistake, if you consider it. Like, he had like nothing to do with him.
What about Rambo 4? I guess there isn't really a villain in that. It's just like a group of it.
Like when you say meet, like face to face, oh, I know who you are? Or is like...
the James Bond is always like, "Get Bond!" And then at the end they have a final showdown and he inevitably dies. But like in other cases, like I guess like, if you go, let's go back to Disney, Beauty and the Beast, Gaston, if we call him the antagonist villain, he really had nothing to do with the Beast until the very end. Where he's just like, he's in a mirror, Belle likes him, he must die. You know, there's no growth of antagonism throughout that story. One might say he was shoehorned into being his antagonist, because he could have just hung out in town and just been like, "When's Belle coming back?"
In a way, he's
drinking.
He's more of an antagonist to Belle.
Yeah, that's true, actually, because she is the lead. But she doesn't deal with him. She gets Beast to do her dirty work.
Get her dainty lady hands bloodied with Gaston.
You know, like going back to Lion King, Simba hung out with Scar quite a bit, we can agree. He was his uncle, you know, and then he's like, "You all along," so you feel that impact. But these other antagonists, it's like they didn't even know each other existed.
Well, like, in a way, like, Darth Vader is, like, kind of like, he represents the systemic empire kind of thing. Like, Luke only personally hates him because of, like, the dad, Obi-Wan, like, killed him. But, like, really, like, I think it's, in a way, more realistic. It's like, if you're an evildoer, but you're, like, in power and in charge, some random kid from nowhere hates you, but who is this kid to you?
This was beautifully captured in the greatest line ever spouted in a fighting game movie. In Street Fighter the movie, M. Bison, like, Chun-Li's whole thing was she wants revenge against M. Bison for destroying her village all those years ago. And he said straight to her face, "The day M. Bison came to your village was the most important day in your life. To me, it was a Tuesday." And honestly, that line captures the villain relationship so well, because it's not a personal matter of him being like, "Chun-Li lives in that village, I'm gonna burn it down," you know. And I think to a degree that actually is exactly what you're saying. It's like, it's so, it's definitely
asymmetrical. Like, they have this relationship that's not.
Yeah,
it's
a
not,
one way, and he'll be there to
balanced.
defend himself and say, "I'm doing what I'm doing because I like it, and you get in my way, I'll kill you." And we follow the hero, so he's the big bad guy. But yeah, you're definitely right that it's like there doesn't have to be a relationship for your villain and hero. Where else? Let's go to, say, like Harry Potter. There's this weird, definite relationship with like Snape and Harry and Snape. One hates the other, and the other hates grapes, or whatever it is. And it's just like they're always against each other for whatever reason. Even Harry doesn't know why. He's like, "Why do you hate me so much?" He's like, "'Cause you're a baby and you killed me." He's like, "I don't remember doing that." And it's kind of like that. That's actually the crux.
Really selling Harry Potter.
That's the crux of the whole bad guy relationship.
Well, there's this long-standing legend that Steve Ditko, the co-creator of Spider-Man, he wanted Green Goblin to be revealed to be just this random dude. But Stan Lee insisted that it be revealed to be Harry Osborn's father, Norman Osborn.
He wanted that personal connection.
It adds more weight to the drama, to the reader.
I'm pretty sure that rumor has been debunked, but it's an interesting sort of take on it, where it's like the prime example, or a prime example of that, of what you're talking about, like that the antagonist, or like there's this episode of the Justice League Unlimited series.
Yes, I think I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, where the Flash and Lex Luthor switch minds, and so they're in each other's body. And at one point, Lex Luthor is like, well, at least I'll get to know who the Flash really is. He's looking in the mirror and he pulls off his mask and he's like,
who the hell is this?
Yeah, I have no idea who this is. So, it's. I mean,
he's like smirking, then he just like drops a smile. He's like, I don't know who this is. It's such a good moment.
So, it's interesting that you don't really think about that. I mean, you're in your picture for this event. You had
Ursula,
Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
Yeah, and he doesn't really know anything about John McClane. They don't really meet until the end when Hans puts on his fake American accent and pretends to just be a random guy, and then they fight.
Yeah,
it's interesting. You don't see that too much.
I guess like the other characters on the image was like Ursula and Ice King and stuff like that. Hans Gruber though, I found one of the most like I didn't actually watch Die Hard until like this past 2 years, and I loved it. Like it honestly had so much humanity to it because there wasn't for like an 80s action film, which were if you think back, it's always like big explosions, bad guys, breaknecks, and he's dead tired and stuff like that. And you watch Die Hard, and every character has so much humanity in him. Like Hans Gruber is on the phone and he's like, I want all the all the prisoners released from these countries. And then he takes the phone off his hand and he's just bullshitting. Like he tells the guy, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And he just goes back on the phone. And I'm like, this guy is so human in a ridiculous way. And he just wants money, which is kind of simple in the end. But that's all he was after. And it's just, he created this whole supervillain persona at the same time, which is excellent. And it really surprised me that that's what the movie is about. And then you have like these asshole FBI guys, Johnson & Johnson, trying to shoot rockets and stuff. And they don't care about human life. And you have this street cop with so much heart. That's the only thing John McClane can hang on to while he's got glass at his fucking feet. It was such a compelling movie, in which I fear watching any of the sequels because of it.
I only saw Die Hard and Die Hard 4. I feel like I should see those middle two.
Between ones? Are you guys gonna go see the new one?
I still have to see 2, 3, 4 before 5.
Here's the thing with the Die Hard movies. They've I believe. Well, it's not even that. I think all of maybe the first one was an original, like a John McClane Die Hard story. That was what it was meant to be. But 2, 3, and 4 all started out as unique scripts, and then they became. John McClane was made the hero of them. So it's an interesting series just to see from that perspective.
So it's like they took a script and you're like, what would make this better? John
McClane! And then they all high five and a freeze frame.
And the credits of the writer's room story. Something like that. We're a producer. I don't know. Well, we're about almost an hour in, so I guess what this comes down to, as this little talk inspired, you're thinking of how to treat villains in your own writing. Do you want them to be more human? Would you rather them be, like, unfortunately for me, I'd rather make villains more comical, because that's what I just kind of naturally lead to, make them silly. But at the same time, I don't want them to be simple. Like, I like them to have, basically, I just like them to be able to even justify to themselves. Because if they can't look themselves in the mirror and be like, Vader, what are you doing? Or something like that. It's like, it feels like you've missed an opportunity in your writing. Unless you'd rather it just be all about the hero and the villain is just a wall.
It depends on what kind of story you're trying to tell. If you want to tell like a myth or a fable or something, maybe the villain can just be straightforwardly evil. But if you want to tell a story that makes sense, that's coherent, that's like, that's realistic, the villain needs to have a background and has to be justifiable, like you said. They have to have reasons for why they do things, I mean, evil isn't a reason, You can't say, why did he do it? He's evil. That's not a fucking explanation.
That's my thing in real life. When people say, this thing that happened, the person who did that was evil. I was an evil
man. You see, that is a very dangerous thing to do. For people, for society, that is very dangerous thing. Because once you say someone is evil, you don't have to understand them.
You've justified it to yourself. You're like, well, that's it. Nurture, nature, whatever, evil. Nature then. Yes, that one.
And also, like, once something's evil, you can do whatever the hell you want to them,
Yeah.
And that means it's like you no longer have to consider that person human. And
okay. He's just a force, like an element of just. It's what was that?
Supernatural.
That was kind of the one thing I always had weird issue with in Fifth Element, where it's like there's an evil cloud outside Earth, and it's so friggin' evil, or it's a meteor, the most evil. It makes your head leak chocolate syrup. It's so damn evil. This meteor is. Oh my God! Let's find love and kill it.
That is interesting. It's an evil inanimate object.
Yeah.
How do you have an evil inanimate object?
And he's like, and he calls friggin' what's his face? He calls him on the phone. He calls Commissioner Gordon. He's just what's his name?
Gary Oldman.
Yeah, Gary Oldman. And he's like, are the elements? And it's humorous because I love Fifth Element. It's a great film.
Yeah.
It's silly. It's got good stuff. But it's just evil rock.
Well, I mean, isn't that? I mean, maybe I'm not a Lord of the Rings nerd, really, but isn't that what Sauron or Sauron is?
Well, now if you read the Silmarillion, which contains the backstories of the Necromancer.
Oh, so there's a reason why he's evil.
Oh yeah, there's plenty, and he was one of the originals. And it was gods, and Galadriel said something cross-eyed to him, and he didn't like that.
Isn't the backstory basically the Bible? Like isn't like
no, I think that's why I'm listening to Wardrobe.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Wrong story. That's C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
They hung out in dorms together. And they're like, "What you writing, Lewis?" He's like, "I'm writing about a wardrobe." He's like, "Typical Lewis. I'm writing about elves." Check it.
You and your Aslan can get out of here.
Wait, what? Where was Tolkien from?
They're both British.
Dome, yeah.
Yeah, your pawns.
That's exactly what happened. But what do you, Carol, take away from all this?
Well, in the midst of my current writing, I realized from last week after the after discussion,
the after show talk.
Yeah, the after show talk. You know, the villain that I wanted to cast, I can't really cast him unless I write more about him and figure out what he wants. Like he then becomes to me at least a character. Like I have to cast.
You can have an anti-hero.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's all about perspective.
Exactly, perspective. So I'm like writing two different characters, and I'm like, I don't know who I want, to win.
Oh.
They could easily.
But that's an interesting.
It's a conflict for sure.
That's cool.
So then I'm trying to play with the idea. What if they both just like the stories about them, like their ideas.
It ends amicably and they shake hands.
No, I don't know about that. Maybe there's something that they both need from each other.
So they cooperate.
They cooperate, and then there's no real bad guy.
Usually what you gotta do is put them both in a shackle together. I guess we gotta climb this mountain together.
Yeah.
Don't look while I pee.
Like maybe it's not a greater evil that they
my
face.
hand closer.
But what if it's like nature? You know how things like a meteor is coming to Earth. Where's the evil in that? That's nature, right?
Yeah, unless it's the Fifth Element meteor, which is the most evil meteor.
No, it just happens by chance.
Well,
so
a lot of authors, some of them just form their characters, and they don't know how the plot's going to end, and they just have their characters do what they would do, and then eventually the ending writes itself.
It's the character study where, like, my idea is like, you put a character in a room with a chair and tell them to do something with the chair. And it's like, what does your character do? Does he sit on the chair? Does he kick it over? Does he flip it upside down? Like, or does he do nothing at all? And that's kind of, that's your character. Put him in a solitary place with one object. What do they do with that object? And and maybe they do 5 different things depending on, how long they've been there, and that's kind of what does your character do, I feel.
So then does it become you judge what the you judge them whether they're evil based on what they do with the chair?
How could you do that? It was just a chair. Maybe.
Like then the guys in the room was just like, sorry, it was an impulse. I didn't know what else. You wouldn't let me out of the room.
Yeah.
There you go. It's your own reality show to run. There you go.
Your own reality show.
Yeah, the chair show.
It's beautiful, man.
I feel many beautiful things. Speaking of beautiful, have been said today. I feel I've taken away a lot. Bad guys, villains, antagonists. They come in many shapes, many sizes. They don't have to have the most deep thing going for them, but at least know what they want. It's kind of simple to say, but I feel that's kind of the corest element. Know what your villains want. Because if they're just bad to be bad, maybe that's funny or maybe it suits the story, but sometimes people ask you questions.
I mean, another thing to be aware of is that there's that old thing about the 3 different kinds of stories. There's like man versus man, man versus himself, and man versus nature.
Is this a Joseph Campbell thing?
Sounds like my English class.
Yeah, but I mean, it's true. The only thing a true villain can really be in is either, it's usually man versus man, arguably man versus himself. But there's all those. Not every story needs a villain. is another point, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
you need obstacles, but it doesn't have to be personified.
Yeah.
You know, like Deep Impact was a meteor, and you're like, ah!
Yeah.
Volcano was a volcano, and Tommy Lee Jones was like, ah! The Day After Tomorrow was really cold. The guy who's not Harrison Ford was like, ah! Yeah, that guy.
Or Jake Gyllenhaal.
The man who is not Harrison Ford.
That's great. He's like, ah, the cold is coming.
My balls off out here. They're wolves.
Yeah, that was true. Wolves and cold. In fact, it was man versus wolves in that film, I feel.
Like The Grey.
Yeah. Wait, what? There's wolves in The Grey?
Yeah.
That was the whole advertising.
Thing. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like man versus Liam Neeson.
No, I mean, really, it's man versus nature. But
okay.
That's they advertise as Liam Neeson versus Wolf, and if you go in expecting that, you'll be sorely disappointed.
The film is Wolf versus Liam Neeson.
Really? Why? Is the wolves not involved?
They are. It's just more about.
But we don't know what they want.
Yeah,
the wolves are very simple.
They want to eat him.
But why? What happened in their childhood?
Hungry.
I feel they were conditioned to want to eat man. You know, I'm just stretching here.
Oh, you want to make this into an environmental parable? Man destroyed their habitat, and the wolves are like, oh,
Liam Neeson was introduced into a habitat, and that just shattered everything.
Yes.
Just like in Taken. They put him in France, and then what happened? Whole thing's all apart. I think that's all for me. Graham, how you doing?
I'm good. I realized on my way down here that I haven't really written many villains at all, so I might try and add that into future writing, like a proper villain.
There you go. Why? What's up?
It was enlightening.
Carol?
I just had a whole different thought. Okay, so what about if a hero does something horrible, like succumbs to his own weaknesses and stuff, and then something horrible happens, but then he tries to go about fixing his ways? That makes him like a hero. But then
it's like a redemption story.
Isn't that basically what Anakin Skywalker does?
That's basically every Western.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I did something horrible, but now I'm fixing it by shooting more people.
Or if they realize what they did was wrong and then they don't go about fixing it, does that make them the villain?
Is that a boring story because they're sitting around and doing nothing?
I mean, it depends how gray you want your hero to be. You know, it depends what they did. But I think a lot of TV shows, especially these days and on cable and whatnot, for instance, Boardwalk Empire, it seems like every season, by the midpoint, Steve Buscemi's character has done something horrible, and then he redeems himself a little bit. And every season he seems to get a little darker and a little lighter towards the end. It's like two steps forward, one step back, as the progress of the character. So he's progressively getting darker and darker. But, it depends on your character and what you want to do. I mean, a lot of this is just you have to follow where the characters take you.
Ooh.
Yeah, man. I went there.
But then that means there wouldn't really be any more villains. You can't really label them at that point.
Then all the better, I think. Like on Boardwalk, for example, the main character, Nucky Thompson, is a gangster. He's not a guy who you would normally sympathize with. But they make him an interesting character, and all the other characters in it are other gangsters, and the only villains, really, in a way, are the ones getting in Nucky's way.
So police.
No, he's got the police in the bag. The police aren't an issue. It's really just other gangsters. And it's like the depths that those guys will go to that maybe Nucky won't necessarily go to. It's interesting stuff. That's like a show that's all villains.
Okay.
It's a good show. Highly recommend it.
Graham recommends Boardwalk Empire. Check it out. Cool. Find out more about Write Night by joining the Facebook group. It's on Facebook.